Well, we're back, and today we're going to work on Adobe Premiere Lesson 1C. All right, so the very first thing we're going to do, we're handling things a little bit different. We're here in Adobe Premiere, and again, this is the place where we put everything together. We put our animations together, we put our music together, our dialogue, our sound effects, and we output a file that can be uploaded to YouTube or your phones, and we can share it. So before we start, these lessons are going to be a little different. Usually I have you download the entire project and then we work off of each lesson. But in this particular case, I'm going to give you more of a crash course in Adobe Premiere. I'm not going to go that deep just because we've done a lot already, and I want to make sure that you're able to navigate and put things together for your final project. So I've broken it up into smaller packets so we can actually download them as we're working in Adobe Premiere. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come to we're going to come to Canvas, and we're going to download this Adobe Lesson 1C zip file. Now, this will be on top of this video that I'm recording right now. It's not edited yet. I'm gonna have to edit this, and I'm upload it here to Canvas. And you're going to download this Adobe Lesson 1 zip file, right? You're going to click it, and then I'm going to go ahead and say download up here. And we're going to download this file. I'm going to put it on my desktop for right now, but you can put it in downloads, but just remember where you're downloading it to. Because remember, we have to go and we have to open it up before we can actually use it. So I'll go ahead and save it to my desktop. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come up here and show in Finder. This is the fastest way to find it. And then it's a zip file. So we remember we're going to have to open it up. So we'll double click that, right? And then with the zip file, we're going to go ahead and we will just throw away the zip file, right? And we'll have the Adobe Lesson 1C. I have another one, so I'll delete that one, all right? So this 1C folder, I want you to notice that if you click the down arrow, you have voiceover, music, and a folder called Laura in the Snow. All right, so then we're going to go ahead, we'll close that up. And we need to put this in our U drive, specifically in our animation folder. So we'll grab this and we'll bring it into our animation folder. I hovered over it and it opened up the other folder. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in my Adobe Animate folder. And I'll go ahead and just leave it there, drag it and drop it. All right. In our Animate folder, right? You could have a Premiere one, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in our Animate one just because I know we're going to be working more with Animate. This is our final project. So Adobe Lesson 1C. And what you want to do here also is you may want to rename this folder Adobe Premiere, right? Lesson 1C, just so we can have it separate from Adobe Animate, right? So we'll have, these are, we're going to work from these folders here. So let's go ahead. Now that we've done that, we've got our files from the internet that we're going to be working with today, right? And again, as I preface this and as I open this up, so I'll go ahead and everybody open up Premiere. Let me go ahead and come back over here. Adobe Premiere Pro. I want to just say that this is a software that is used by most YouTubers and people who use video in their everyday life for the professional jobs. So there are a couple of other programs out there like a Final Cut or DaVinci Resolve that they use for editing. But by and large, Premiere Pro is pretty much the de facto or the default program that most of these people use. All right, so we're here in our splash screen, right? Our Adobe Premiere splash screen. And we're going to go ahead and hit New Project, right? And in this project, we're going to, the very first thing we're going to call it, and you can call it anything you want, but we'll just call it, for our intent and purposes, we're just going to call it Adobe Premiere Lesson 1, right? And we'll just call it 1. I was going to call it 1C, but let's just call it Lesson 1 because we're going to add to it. And then we're going to come up here, we're going to browse, right? And it should open up in that last window you have. If not, go to your animation folder, right? And then you can go into your Adobe Lesson 1C and you should see the Adobe Premiere area status, basically where we're at, and we're going to save it in that same folder. All right. So we're going to hit choose, right? Because it's in the same folder, right? And then we're going to go ahead and hit OK. So really the only two things you're going to be adjusting is this name, Adobe Premiere Lesson 1, and then you're just going to browse and put it into your U Drive folder. And again, as long as it is in the same folder as your assets, okay, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to use it there. Right, so let me go ahead and go here, animation. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and we will animation Adobe Lesson 1C, yes. And then we're going to go ahead and we'll choose that folder. Because remember, that's the folder that came out of the zip file. So we'll hit choose and hit OK. And it takes us into this screen. Again, if you don't see this screen, maybe they're different sizes or different areas. All you got to do is come up here and look and just click this little word called editing. All right. And here we are. So I want to show you that there are 5 areas to this Premiere Pro station, so to speak. There's 5. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the toolbar 5. All right. And I'll start from our media center. All right. Or basically our asset center. This is where we bring in all of our material that we use to edit, right? This is where we use all of our material to put things together. So if we have video from an iPhone, maybe a video from a video camera, some assets from let's say Illustrator or Photoshop. We also have maybe pictures that we want to bring in. We can bring all that stuff and we can actually put it in our timeline and we can edit it all. So to do that, what we need to do is we just basically need to do is double click this, right? And then we see our voiceover, Laura and the Snow folder, and music. And I want to import all of this stuff. And if you click the bottom arrow, you're going to see that there's a lot of material inside each one of these folders. But instead of clicking one by one, we can actually click the first folder we want to import, hold down Shift, and then click the next one, Laura and the Snow and music. And yours may be in a different order. Do not worry, it's the same thing. And now that we have highlighted all 3, we're going to click import, and it's going to import files. But look at what it did. You may have an error. Hit OK. It's OK. We don't need to use every single thing, but it created 3 bins for you, folders. Remember, we talked about this yesterday, where bins come from a world where we used to shoot exclusively in film. And then those films were in canisters. We put them in bins and we labeled them what scenes they were. And they literally were carted to the editing bay and they were taken out and they were put on an editing bay and they would be cut up, right? And put together in a way that, a film would emerge. So here, we have the 3 bins, Laura and the Snow, voiceover, and music. And if you click Laura and the Snow, you're going to see that there's already video files in here in 4K. And if you notice, as I'm scrolling through each one, I'm just hovering. I'm not even clicking anything. You can get a preview of what these videos are, which is really helpful if you want to know what's happening in each scene. It helps you in editing and foreshadowing, and it helps you connect different scenes together, different movements. So if I want to close this and go back, I'll hit this little 3 lines here. And basically we're going to close panel. And these 3 little lines are found all over Adobe Premiere. So get used to looking for basically like this 3-line stack, right? It's like a stack of little lines because that's going to give you a sub menu. All right. So I'm going to click over here and these are some tabs, right, that you can that aren't really super clear with separating them, but you can just click on them and you'll see here is our main media center or main media. I wouldn't say bin. I would say media bay. Our media browsers here. Our libraries are here. Info, effects, and your markers and history. Right, but we're going to come back over here. We'll get into everything else later. Some of it we're not going to touch because it's outside the scope of what we're trying to do. But for the most part, you're going to be very functional editors after this crash course in Premiere Pro. So We have this area, so this is where we keep our media, and I'm going to be showing you all of these different tools as we progress through this tutorial. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we're going to come here, and this is an area, basically our preview, right? This is called a preview window. This is called a program window. A preview window lets you preview everything that you're bringing into Adobe Premiere. So if I wanted to preview this clip, I'll double click it and it shows up in the preview window. Pretty simple, huh? And I'm going to close this panel. And if I wanted to preview a voiceover, whatever's in here.
This is a test of me recording directly on.
Okay, see? So now we can preview that. And if we want to close this up, then we can go here and we can preview our music. So again, everything that you want to preview is here, and we can take pieces of here. We can take pieces from this preview window and bring it into our timeline. So then I'll go ahead and close this panel again. And again, I'm hitting these three lines, the line stack, right, which is basically our menu. And I'm going to click back to our project. So I click back over here in our project, and I'm going to go back to the video, right? And so what I want to do is I'm going to double click that so I can preview that piece of film that was basically captured. And here's this little blue playhead. That's what it's called, a playhead, right? And wherever the playhead rolls in time, right, you'll see the little the timeline, okay? And you're going to, as you scroll through this video, you're going to see the video move. And it's really important. So I am not going to want to use this whole video. And if you're watching this right now, you're going to see that it's kind of jumpy a little bit at times, especially toward the end. And this doesn't really look really neat as far as it doesn't give me a good visual when I'm trying to editing. So I'm going to only use a piece of this footage, and I don't want to use it right from the beginning because I don't want to see this empty space. I want this video to start from a place of mystery, right? So I'm going to basically try to have her start where she's walking through this shrubbery, right? So it seems like if it's a deeper mystical type of forest, it's probably bigger than what it really is because we don't see the beginning. We only see her in it. So that's a little trick. So I'm going to hit the letter I. And if you notice, the playhead jumped to the I and then it highlighted everything afterwards. So what I just said is I don't want to use any film from this piece of captured footage that's before this particular spot. And so that's why it's highlighted there. So I'm going to grab it and I'm going to scroll. I'm going to grab the playhead. I'm going to scroll through this video, and I want to stop it probably as she's exiting the little mini forest, right? So as she exits our actress, I was going to say model, but our actress, I'm going to go ahead and hit the letter O for out. And what that does, it's telling Premiere, I want you to ignore everything after it. So I want you to go in at this point, which is your end point, and I want you to stop using it at this point. Oops. Let me go ahead and get some light in here. So now that I have this video, I could grab the whole thing and bring it in. So I'm just going to click and drag it into my timeline. And this is our timeline, right? And you notice that it populated the program window, right? And it's called a program window because it's what shows what our final product is going to be. Everything that we've programmed from music, special effects, all our edits, titles, everything that we've created and pieced together is going to show up here as our final product. So this area here is the main window that you want to focus on as far as what it will look like in the end. All these other windows here are kind of where we put everything together. Think of it as our crafts table, right? And then we're putting it all together. And in this timeline here, it's representative of the time that passes by. So at the bottom, you're going to see this scroll bar. We're going to grab it and we're going to shrink this scroll bar just so we can see enough. Well, I'm going to bring it back a little bit just so we can see our video clip. Now, Now what we're going to see here is when we hit the space bar, we're going to see this cut is what we like to call it, right? We're going to see this cut of this actress emerging from this forest, right? So I basically want a different, now I want the camera or the final product, the program to shift. And I want it, and I'm looking at these different spaces, and I think, there we go. I'm going to want a front shot, right? This is a wide shot. I want a front, probably bust shot. So I'm going to double click here. And let's do an endpoint I, and then I'm going to scroll it's usually called a scrub, right? You can scrub the playhead. And then right about there, because it starts getting blurry afterwards. That's my out point, right? And I'm going to grab it again, and I'm going to drag it in. I'm going to put it right up against it. So let's see what this edit looks like. Walking, stand still, walking. Yeah, that doesn't really work, right? Because it doesn't flow. If I shift the camera, I want it to look like one continuous motion. So I can go ahead and I can just delete that or undo, whichever one you want to do. And I'm going to move I'm going to play with the playhead again. I'm going to scroll it to where she's moving already. There we go. That's an in point. I'll leave my out point the same way. Same place, I'm sorry. I'm going to go back here. I click this and I drag it over into the timeline. Then I'm going to snap it. Okay. And let's see what it looks like now. She's walking. Oh, that looks good. All right. So one thing I want you to take notice, this is a pro tip, when somebody walks, there's a fall. So she's falling down and then she's lifting up. Okay. See how she's lifting up twice. So up, then down, then up. All right. So that might work with a continual motion. I do want it a little higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the end. I'm just going to pull it back. So you don't have to go back and re-edit. You can just grab the edges and pull them back and forth. And then I'm going to go ahead and connect them again. And now let's take a look at this little edit, right? So that looks good. Hold on. Probably a little too much. And again, you have to play with it to get it to the right spec, to get it to the right feel. There it is. That one feels good. So see how she's falling down? As she's falling down, I want to do one thing. I actually want to go to a reel where I'm showing her feet hit the snow. Is there a foot one? Oh, there's probably right there. Okay, this is a good one. So right there, I'll do an in point because she's about to step, and then I'll do an out point here. Oops, I did 2 endpoints. My bad. Now, if you want to get real technical, you can get to the point where she steps on the right foot. There's my output. So now I put the O for out. I'm going to connect that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to bring this up. My next tool, the razor tool, right? The razor blade. Literally, this is what happened back when we were putting films together manually. We would take a razor blade and we would slice the actual film, pull it apart, and then put another piece of film, another angle, and then we would tape it together literally with a special tape, and then it would connect the master reel, right? So we're gonna do it digitally. We're gonna cut that there, the playhead, right? And again, you don't have to follow me here. You can play with this a little bit. You can do your own cuts later. And then of course, I want to go back to our selection tool. Hello. We had a selection tool in Animate. We have a selection tool in Photoshop. We have a selection tool in Illustrator. And now we have a selection tool in Premiere. your friend, right? Someone familiar is your selection tool. Click that. And then now that we sliced it, we're going to click the second clip. We'll make some space here. And we'll bring in the other, the foot clip that I just made. I'll connect that there, and I'm going to connect all those three together. So let's see what it looks like, right? Steps. Oh, that doesn't kind of quite look right, because it looks like she actually landed right there. So I'm going to have to look at this where she lands. There's the weight of landing. Ooh, I was way off. Click that. And I'll show you how to do ripple deletes later. That's a whole different deal. But for right now, we're just going to do it manually so you know how it works. And then I'll show you some other shortcuts later. So here we go. There you go. Steps. There you go. And then next. Oh, that may not match. Well, maybe it does. Step. Oh, a little bit late. Again, when you're editing, you got to pay attention to these things. Oop, I highlighted two different things. Undo. Okay. So now, step. There you go. All right. So I'm going to, let me go ahead and move over here. And this is a good one. So I'll go in from right here, in, out. I'm put this at the end. Probably a little much. I'll stop it there. Okay, so now we have a complete sequence of video. All right. Okay, so what's our next step? Well, I want you to use a different tool now. I'm going to highlight the whole thing here. I'm going to pull it back just a bit, and I'm going to move the playhead over to the front where there's a blank space. Now I'm going to let you work with the third tool, which is the text type tool. Click that once, click it in the center, and then I'm going to basically create a title. Okay, Origins of the Lost. I just came up with that. You can come up with your own title. You don't have to use that one, right? And then basically I'm going to center it, and you're going to notice some red crosshairs when it's dead center. And now I'm going to click that. Remember, I'm going to go back to our selection tool. I'm going to double click this, and when it's all red, that means we can edit it. So we're going to come back over here where it says Edit Controls. Click that, and you're going to see text, Origins of the Lost, which is basically, it's just describing what you typed in. If it's misspelled, it'll pick that too. You click this down arrow here, and you have all the options that you want, right? Size, center, fill, color, all of that cool stuff that we do with all our other fonts in other programs. We still have access to that in Premiere. So we're going to hit the fonts, and we're going to look for a cool font that goes with our amazing video. And I think I'm going to use this one here. This handwriting. Yeah, that looks cool. So I'm going to use my selection tool again so I can center it. Ooh, it looks like it's a little too big. All right. So I'm going to bring it. So here is the font size. It's at 100. So you can use a slider to make it big or small, right? And again, you can keyframe this to if you want it to be coming out. We're not going to use keyframes to animate this right now. We're just going to basically do our own thing. We're going to do a 85 should be about it, right? All right. And then, and again, yours could be different depending on your title, depending on the font you pick. For this particular lesson, I want it to be different. I want you to play with this, right? So here's Origins of the Lost. And so now if we play, and I'm going to basically put this all the way, drag it all the way to the beginning so it touches the beginning of the timeline. And the video starts with Origins of the Lost, and it goes into the video, right? So that's cool, but it's not quite artistic. It's not smooth. It's not pro. What I want it to do is I want it to fade in from black, and then I want it to fade out while the video is playing. So what I'm going to do is we're going to come back down here. Here's a double arrows, which basically let us know that there's more panels to the right. So if you look here, if you click that, you're going to see an effects, right? An effects tab. You may be able to see it up here, but if you don't, you can always hit this and it has all the tabs for you. Go back to the main project, right? And if you notice here in our workspace, it already made a video of the timeline, right? So we're going to come back here and go to effects, and we're going to go to video transitions. And you have all these transitions we can use, but we're going to be professionals, and professionals really don't use all kinds of fancy transitions. They usually use straight cuts or they use dissolves, right? And dissolves usually talk about a passage of time. So we're going to do an additive dissolve. So what we'll do here is we'll click and drag. So I'm going to click and drag all the way over, and you see that I hovered right at the beginning and it already filled it in, and it has this little tab called additive dissolve, right? So now if I hit the space bar to play it, see how that is? I'll do it one more time. It faded itself in, right? If you want to make it slower, you can drag this out. If you want to make it faster, you pull this back in, you make it shorter, right? And I'll do a cross dissolve, grab that, and I'll put it at the end, right? So then it melts into the actual video. There we go. So I actually want to also do an additive dissolve to the video, so the video doesn't just pop open. So I'll click it there. I'll put that there. So the video actually fades in too. So there we go. It fades in, then it fades out. Very cool. All right. So again, this is me on the fly. I didn't plan this. I'm going through this. I have a lot of experience editing. So you're going to see lots of different things that I do that may not make sense. Let me know. But in reality, I'm trying to go as slow as possible, just getting down the basics. So now you've learned all of these windows just by doing this stuff, right? I've taught you these windows. Now I'm going to teach you how to start getting some more emotion, some drama to this film. So right now, all you see is an actress walking through snow-covered, let's just call this a courtyard, right? And you don't know what's happening here. So let's go to voiceovers, right? Let's click this little, this little panel selector, and we're gonna go back to our project, right? And let's close this Laura and the snow bin. So it's not in our way. And let's go to voiceover. And let's preview what Journey to New York sounds.
I was searching for something. I couldn't say what it was, but suffice to say, I would know when I saw it.
Very mysterious, very cool. So let's grab this. Oops. For audio, you have to come down here and just grab the audio. See this little waveform down here? If I'm hovering and then my cursor goes over, it turns into a little hand. So the little hand can grab it and pull it through. So you're going to grab it and you're going to pull it in and you're going to bring it down here. Okay? And basically what you're going to do is, I'm going to bring it to the beginning. I like the beginning. So what this will do, I want you to notice that there's this little bar here that's like a thick gray bar. That's to separate the top and the bottom. The top is for video or anything visual that you see, pictures, text. And the bottom is for everything that you hear, sound effects, Foley, and dialogue, right? So that's why everything, and it's different colors. This is green, and this is what my eye see is kind of like a pinkish kind of color. But here is these are two different workspaces, but they work together. So now let's see how this video sounds and looks, because audio is a massive part of video.
I was searching for something. I couldn't say what it was, but suffice to say, I would know when I saw it. I wanted to go to New York, but all that construction. And then, all of a sudden, it found me.
Ooh, it found me. Crazy. So we don't know what's going on here, right? Interesting. And it sounds awesome by itself, but we all know music is where it's at, right? So let's go back. Let's close this bin over, close this panel. And let's select our music folder. And let's preview some of this stuff. I want it to kind of, let's see, I want it to kind of build into a big crescendo. Oh, that sounds good. Let's see what this one sounds like. Ooh, all right. So I'm gonna, for time's sake, I'm just gonna choose this one. This one kind of fits what I like. So I'm gonna grab this. I'm gonna bring this in a little bit. I'll probably bring it to the beginning, right? And let's see what it sounds like together.
I was searching for something. I couldn't say what it was, but suffice to say, I would know when I saw it. I wanted to go to New York, but you know, all that construction. And then, all of a sudden, it found me.
Ooh, that one's awesome. You hear like the music kind of just rose up, okay? And it found me. Actually, but I want it to delay the vocal a little bit so that as soon as we get towards the end, it just goes black and the sound cuts off completely, right? So I'm gonna get the razor blade again, and I'm gonna cut I'll cut this audio part. Which part I'll cut this part here, and I'll do another cut right here. And again, all I'm doing is hovering with the razor blade, and I'm just clicking on it, and wherever it hovers and it clicks, it does a slice. It slices it right there. And I'll come back over here to selection tool, and guess what? If I want a shortcut, just hit V. That's one of our shortcuts in Animate and Illustrator. So then I'm going to grab this. I'm going to bring this out over here. I'm going to bring this out just a little bit more. Give it some little drama toward the end. So then
All that construction. And then, all of a sudden, it found me.
Oh, nice. Okay, so I'm going to kick it right there. Hit the razor blade. Cut the razor blade out right there. I'm going to cut the music. And V, because that's my shortcut. Now I got my selection tool. Click that. Delete it. And now it should be like, jump. All right, it should just completely lock out. It's super mysterious.
All of a sudden, it found me.
Wow. See, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. It's cool. But you see how it's not really quite tight? I'm going to just pull those back a little bit. So then basically it'll just, there it is. Now let's watch this video that we just edited really quickly together.
I was searching for something. I couldn't say what it was, but suffice to say, I would know when I saw it. I wanted to go to New York, but you know, all that construction. And then, all of a sudden, it found me.
Nice. Okay. Command S, save your work. Save your work. All right. So hopefully you've seen how where we bring in not a lot of dialogue, right? We don't bring any dialogue, actually. We just bring the video. Much like with your animations that you're creating right now, and you bring your animation movies that we export, the videos we export, we put them in a bin, we go through it, we bring it into our timeline, and then we can add voiceovers, we can add music, and then in our program window, hopefully you're getting excited. Hopefully you're getting excited. We can add special effects. We can add Foley. We can do all these different things and to make our final projects amazing, right? And then we're going to export it and you can carry it with you. Now, that was the last thing. Only thing I want you to do now is I want you to make your own cuts. There's a lot of video in this bin that I did not use, right? I'm going to close that panel. I'm going to come over here. Lauren, the snow, there's a lot of different looks, a lot of different edits you could make. And I want you to make a special one. I want you, maybe you want to use different music. You have a different vision as an editor. I want you to play with it. That's the assignment right now, is to get it to a certain point, play with the edits, get comfortable with editing. And then I will come back and we'll add to this at another point. And so I'm going to show you some other little tricks, maybe add some keyframes, some text, special effects. And you're going to see that this is going to be amazing stuff, or you're going to make some amazing stuff with your animations for your final project. So again, play around with this, come up with your own editing scheme, your own edits, and then you are going to be turning this in. So go ahead and continue playing this. That's it for me. And that's it for today. Make sure you hit Command S again. Make sure always save often. And that's it for me. This is Mr. Juarez saying over and out.